Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
So thank you everybody for joining us today. You know, this is a morning session of the European Alliance Against Coronavirus that is composed by everybody that wants to collaborate in this purpose. We have been discussing for more than 100 sessions on how to collaborate in this fighting, and taking different perspectives. This week we have been speaking about the S3, now S4, with the sustainability added in different aspects, and today we will speak about S4 related to international and territorial cooperation. So for doing that, we are going to hear 5 speakers. The first one will be Kevin Morgan from Cardiff University. After him, we will have Anaïs Lecobert from CIBER, Valentina Pina, DigiGrow, Hilary Habukainen from the Regional Council of Lapland, and close with the participation of Sławomir Tokarski from DigiGrow. So thank you, every one of you, for being here, and we will start just now, just to be able to complete with the timing. So, Kevin Morgan, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay, Antonio.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me this morning. It's worth us remembering that European Regional Innovation Policy is 30 years old this year. And we might have been celebrating its birthday were it not for the tragedy of the COVID pandemic and the madness of Brexit. But I say that because smart specialization is not an entirely new policy, but it is the most ambitious regional innovation policy that we've ever launched in the European Union. And I say that because we should not be surprised if there's been some problems, some teething problems, and some challenges. But right now, where we are today, in the face of the pandemic and the crisis, we need to remember that the most important thing about smart specialization right now is that it provides a place-based innovation infrastructure to allow European regions, cities, and municipalities to move forward in a dynamic way. And I say that because it can be very helpful infrastructure for European policy generally, whether it's the industrial strategy or whether it's the Green Deal. These policies must not be top-down policies or they will fail. They will need to harness the decentralized innovation infrastructure that smart specialization has been creating for the past 6 years. So that's my introduction. The main problems, looking back over the last 6 years, the main problems with smart specialization from our research have been mainly 3 types. Number 1, there's the governance problem, especially relating to the capacity constraints of public sector and public administration. Secondly, there's been the narrow conception of innovation, which has mainly been conceived narrowly in terms of science and technology, and that means that the usual suspects have benefited most: traditional firms and universities, and there's left little space for social innovation or for SMEs. And the third main problem to our research is regional parochialism, which means that the interregional collaboration dimension of smart specialization has remained underdeveloped. Let's remember that the interregional dimension is not a new policy goal. We've been trying to promote interregional collaboration for many years, and some of you will remember that the European Commission launched Article 70, to try to promote this goal because it allowed for what we call out-of-area spending. But Article 70 failed, and it failed for three reasons to do with knowledge, politics, and complexity. On the knowledge front, regional governments, and firms in clusters and regions did not have sufficient knowledge about where and with whom to invest in other regions. In political terms, politicians found it difficult to justify investing their money in another region. And thirdly, as my friends and colleagues in Orchestra established, Article 70 failed to appreciate the complexity of the policy mix. So I say these things because we need to learn from the past if we are to do better in the future. And I want to conclude with two ways in which we can learn from the past. First of all, in policy terms, the European Commission is clearly learning about the problems with Article 70. And in terms of its new policy instrument, what we sometimes refer to in terms of Component 5, the instrument to promote interregional innovation investments, an instrument that Peter Berkowitz spoke about earlier in the week. This will hopefully help us to overcome the problems of the past. But, and it's a big but, that will need to operate in the context of new policy synergies within the European Commission's toolbox, particularly between structural funds and Horizon Europe. We need real workable synergies, not paper synergies. The second way in which we can learn from the past is to learn from the feedback from the Vanguard regions. The Vanguard Initiative has been one of the pioneering alliances for promoting interregional alliances in the context of smart specialization. And among the lessons that I take from the Vanguard experience are three kinds of lessons. Number one, the need for a much stronger regional voice in European policy for industrial policy and innovation policy. Secondly, the need for what I call workable synergies between different policy instruments. Not paper synergies, but real workable synergies that firms and public administrations can use to forge better kinds of policy mixes. And thirdly, the need to overcome the barriers to interregional collaboration, particularly the barriers at the pilot and demonstration phases of innovation, especially for SMEs. We need to create a common and accessible innovation infrastructure across the European Union. And therefore, my final point is this: whether we are part of clusters, ecosystems, or regional innovation systems, whatever you want to call it, we have to remember two key messages. Number one, that European policy will only work on the ground if we have achieved a more simplified and harmonized regulatory system where instruments, particularly financial instruments, work in practice for SMEs and others. And secondly, we need to remember, while the public sector has an enormously important role to play in promoting innovation, neither the public sector, regional governments, nor universities have the skill sets to commercialize and valorize knowledge, and therefore we need to empower industry-led cross-border alliances. Thank you, Antonio.
You are very welcome. It has been a brilliant summary of where we are, and as you say, we need to provide the instruments to create those network of collaboration. So thank you, and now we will hear some concrete example of international collaborations through CIBER, the network of bio clusters, and we have with us Anaïs Lecoberg. Anaïs, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good morning.
Should I have gave you the presentation
Yes,
rights?
if you can give me, I have a very small presentation, but so let me. Do you see it?
Yes, we see it.
Okay.
Okay. Please.
Yes. Okay. So I'll stick to my time too. I think it's a really interesting session. So thanks for having me here today. When I got invited to these sessions about international and territorial cooperation, I thought it was really interesting because CIBER is a network of we're about 40 members now, clusters or similar organization all over Europe in the life science ecosystem. So I'm just gonna, let me see if I can move. Sorry, I have to screen this morning. So anyway, the idea for this short presentation, and as Antonio was kind enough to ask about very concrete example, and I think it relates very well to what Kevin has just explained. So I wanted to show today just a little bit on what is CIBER, the regional and international dimension that we have and how we implement it, and just quickly an example or two of projects. And I think for me also the idea, because we've been discussing actually just yesterday with the board of CIBER some interesting discussion points that I hope we can have in the open discussion afterwards. So basically, it's an old picture because obviously this year we're not able to meet in person, unfortunately. But so CIBER is, as I said, a network of clusters and cluster managers all over Europe in the life science sector. We're represented a little bit all over Europe and growing more. So you can see some of our members here, just a little bit, well, actually giving a good coverage of what is life science cluster all over Europe. Main objectives of the network, they are here, you can read them afterwards, but basically it's been working since the beginning of the 2000s. It came up with a project that was actually a project for skilling up the cluster managers, and from there it grew into a bigger network. And obviously there's always been interest in collaborating, not only just the region next to yours, but also at country level in Europe. So we work to expand the cluster opportunities, to strengthen the cooperation, to also relate to policymakers locally in the EU level, but basically to support all the SMEs and the actors that are locally involved in life science over Europe. So in terms of the regional international dimension, as I was asked, I'm just going to mention 3 projects. You will have the slides, so you can just go in it, and I can put more contact details if you're interested. But basically, I think they represent quite well what is being done by CIBER members, and how a network like this and the connection between clusters all over Europe can actually help to develop locally new programs and new ideas, and thus improving the economy of our SMEs. The first one is called Boost for Health. It's a program that is from the indirect funding, basically linking together clusters, but also development agencies in providing concrete vouchers to their SMEs. I took this example because I think it's a very good example of a specific program that normally targets a region of Europe, being it from one country to another, but regions that are, let's say, close together. But this concrete program also open to other regions in Europe. And what they are seeing after a few years of working is that cross-regional collaboration is very good, but at the same time, companies, and we've seen this in the COVID crisis, maybe you need actually a provider or somebody that's located somewhere else in Europe. And this is where cluster managers, because of this network and because of their connection, can really give a way better support and bring a lot of knowledge for their companies that can be used in developing further their products or selling them and finding new customers. The second I wanted to mention is from the Clusters for Excellence program. So I guess a lot of you listening here know even better about this, but this is a very interesting project coming from I think 4 or 5 members of CBER that connected last year, but it got accelerated also with all what happened. They're located in several countries in Europe, and it's really to help the cluster manager and to provide exchange of skills among cluster manager. I think this is also very important in these times where everything is going, let's say, more through video, through webinars and through all these tools. But it's very good when the confidence and the trust is really embedded into the collaboration. And I think this is one very good example. And the last I wanted to show is not a concrete project, it's just a way we work at CBER. Some years ago, we started collaborating on a, let's say, working group base, and we call them special interest groups. And obviously with the COVID crisis and with all the last, let's say, 6 months that kind of revolutionized a little bit all our lives, the working group really potentiate the collaboration between the different clusters, the different regions, the different knowledge that we can have. And we were just discussing about one that will start a working group on internationalization, sorry. And this is obviously a key point for all the clusters. And one of the key aspects of that group is also how to seek better European collaboration, intra-collaboration, not only to go outside of Europe, but also to work better internally within the European countries. So those are just, like I said, 3 quick examples of different levels of collaboration, but we think it's absolutely key, and it made us stronger, let's say, because we have been collaborating, and the clusters at CBER have been collaborating amongst each other for the past, I think, 15 years for some of them. And in the last 6 months, I have been able to see, I'm the network manager, I've been able to see even more connection dealing with same issue, and obviously within the European Cluster Alliance, we've seen that at a bigger scale in territorial, but also sectorial environment. So just, I think for me, the discussion points and what is interesting about this, again, smart specialization strategies, regional collaboration, how we move on with this. We've been discussing, and obviously one of the key aspects as of right now, is more coordination in the recovery plans, and the fact that we can discuss amongst clusters that are based all over Europe helps to understand until what point the recovery plans are prepared, what similarities, how to apply together, especially big points we have seen in many recovery plans about the digitalization. So there are a lot of local initiative on Digital Innovation Hub and the cluster that are, for example, members of CBER. They actually connect to each other, they support each other when they apply locally, and they exchange their own knowledge. So I think that's an amazing point in terms of collaboration, and this is how we make each of us stronger, by connecting together. So this would be, sorry, I went too fast. Just going quickly, again, we really support, and we think we need more support in promoting the exchange amongst the clusters and among the cluster managers, not necessarily just in our sector, in life science, but also connecting with other sectors. We also think there's no need for limitation in terms of regional and geographic proximity. I think the Boost for Health project showed that it's not just between regions. Sometimes the SME you work with are actually looking for customers that can be further away. Europe is big, so it's important, especially for the funding issues, not to limit only on that. We are looking forward what was mentioned as a potential for Euro clusters, because we've been working in the past years already on collaborating together. And just to finish, I think all of this comes from what all the cluster managers, and I think CBER is just an example, but a lot of you are the same. It's the direct contact with the SMEs, the direct contact with the reality that other actors might not have, and the connection that makes the cluster different. And this is why for this territorial and sectorial collaboration, we've been doing it in CBER, and we hope to continue, obviously, and to connect with more sectors. But we believe this crisis only has shown the need for more connection with that. And just picking up on the policy synergies, I mentioned it in terms of the recovery plan, but I think I just pick up on what Kevin has said. It's absolutely essential, because it will help and support all of us. So that's pretty much it. I hope with this a few ideas we can bring the discussion up afterwards. So thank you. I hope I'm okay with the time.
You are perfect on time. Thank you, Anna.
Hope it was interesting. So
yes, I think that we have a very clear proposal there to comment and discuss later. So I'm sure we will come back to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And now it's time to welcome Valentina Pina from DigiGrow. Valentina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I could share your screen, your presentation, sorry, or give you the presentation rights. What do you prefer?
It's the same. I can see my presentation, so if I have the presentation rights, I can control the presentation you put on the screen.
Okay, so I will give you the rights.
Okay. Let's see. It's the screen. I cannot see my presentation anymore.
No, we are not seeing your screen yet.
Shall I have to share my screen, or you?
Yes.
I can control the presentation that you were showing before.
No, you cannot control it. You can tell me to move it if you want. If
okay. No, I will share my screen in this case.
Okay.
Okay.
Antonio, I think you've given it to Veronica.
I think I'm not the presenter.
Yeah, Antonio, you gave the presentation role to me, to myself, Veronica, not to Valentina.
Sorry.
Okay.
You were close, Veronica. Thank you. Now, do you have it now?
Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, share. Can you see it?
Not yet. Now, yes.
Because for me, it's shared.
Yes.
Okay,
now.
very good.
Please.
Good morning, everybody.
Full screen. Could you put it in full screen?
Yes, I will put it in full screen. Good morning, everybody. My role today is facilitated by the intervention of my boss that my boss gave last Monday, setting a little bit the framework for the instrument I will go to present today. This instrument was very much inspired by what Kevin Morgan was explaining at the beginning, and in particular by the experience of the Vanguard regions. so as you probably know, there was in the proposal of the Commission for European territorial cooperation was foreseen a strand which was called the Component 5, which was setting the basis for this new instrument. During the first round of the negotiation, the legal base has changed because the co-legislators decided to move the instrument under the ERDF regulation in order to ensure better synergies with the structural funds. So now we do not talk anymore about Component 5, which could be have been familiar to you, but we talk about Interregional Innovation Investment I3 instrument. Is the new acronym that we are using. During this negotiation, many things happen, and in particular, the split of the budget originally foreseen between the Interreg Europe and Interregional Innovation Investment, that in any case will have to cooperate together. This is the will of the Parliament in particular. The instrument is articulated in 3 strands, as you can see on the screen. The first one is our innovation action for mature partnerships. The second strand is about simplified innovation action for less developed regions. And a part of this strand is also dedicated to the capacity building for less developed regions. And finally, the last strand is dedicated to technical assistance, capitalization, and experimentation. So what is going to support strand 1 is basically the support to partnership to develop, connect, or make complementary use of testing and demonstration facilities to accelerate the market uptake, the scale up of innovation solution, in areas which are relevant for regions, and those areas are called smart specialization areas, where regions have a potential. This trend will be managed through support of the development of a portfolio of projects by selected partners. This is what the partnership have to deliver. The strand 2 is dedicated to the development of value chain in less developed regions. So basically, we are trying to increase the capacities of regional innovation ecosystems in less developed regions in order to participate in global value chains, but also in order to be able to participate in partnerships with other regions. So we really want to create linkages between less developed regions and lead regions. And we would like to link the value chain of small companies to the value chain of large companies, and the multinational in particular. So we focus on foreign direct investment driven value chains that could really interconnect different territories of the EU with the global value chain, which are leading the market. And finally, there is also another strand that I mentioned before, but which is very much connected to the strand 2, is about learning activities, evaluation, and capitalization, but we will see it later. So for the strand 1, we foresee biannual work programs that we foresee to align with Horizon Europe. If after the outcome of the negotiation will be a decision of totally direct management of the instrument by the Commission, we are very much oriented for aligning our instrument with Horizon work programs in order to facilitate the synergies and eventually to foresee joint calls. The idea is to have a 2-stage selection process where partnership can send a concept note, and those ones who are selected will send a full proposal. The applicant should be public authorities on behalf of an S3 quadruple helix partnership. So basically, we want to mobilize the ecosystems, but the public authorities need to be part of the consortium. They need to be aware of what is going on in the partnership and which sort of investment is developed. And we have in mind consortia of 4 or 5 regions and countries in the regional innovation ecosystem. Please bear in mind that the public authority we have in mind is the authority which is responsible for smart specialization. So every country is organized in a different way, and smart specialization can be drafted at a national level or at a regional level. So it's really important that you identify the competent authority in your region and in your country. The budget originally foreseen for the entire instrument was 970 million. But it will probably come to half of the budget, 500 million, after the negotiation. But the figures that I put here were written considering the total budget. So 160 million per call to finance around 16 grants. It means the size of the grant is around 10 million euro. 10 million euros. And the mechanism of expenditure will be cascade funding. We foresee grants, but in future calls, we also consider the possibility to use financial instruments. We are looking for value chain projects, mobilizing ecosystem, what I mentioned before. So basically investments in projects which can reinforce existing value chain and accelerate the development of new ones. Basically combining activities, actors, strategic networking, interlinking firms, sectors and borders. And the duration of those projects should be around 3 years, multi-annual projects of 3 years. Talking about, we accept projects with any sort of innovation, but if we talk about technological innovation, we are referring to technology readiness level higher than 5, so from 6 to 8, to accelerate the market uptake and commercialization. The final goal is to bring something to the market to accelerate commercialization, uptake of new technologies by industry, etc. And those investments must be coherent with the S3 strategic priority areas. Concerning the beneficiaries, we are targeting mainly SMEs, but we do not exclude large companies if they are essential for the development of the value chain. Eligible costs are linked to productive investments, demonstration and piloting in companies, but there will be the possibility to cover part of the coordination costs. Concerning the strand 2, the objective of this strand is to build a precondition for successful international and interregional collaboration, reinforcing regions' position in global value chains, strengthening the capacities of SMEs to cooperate with multinationals, and building an innovation ecosystem which can match business sector with research capacities across border, linking to value chains, promoting innovation diffusion and internationalization. The project should be articulated in three main blocks: analytical support, capacity building, and project implementation. So for concerning the analytical support, we really want to explore the potential of growth markets, benchmarking value chains, and mapping innovation support system. The core part of the project should be capacity building, where you have concrete activities which can also involve clusters. So for example, prospection visit in cluster of companies in other regions and member states, visit of research infrastructure, research and demonstration infrastructure for companies, twinning projects, including the business sector, Erasmus for cluster and innovation managers, voucher for SMEs, specific trainings, etc. All those things will be, of course, very closely discussed with DG Grow, because they also have a measure that will support cluster, and we really want to avoid overlaps. But we think that the ecosystem needs to be animated, and the cluster can really play an important role. Project implementation. Concerning the project implementation, we want to have simplified innovation actions, which can be inspired by the Strand 1, but maybe the cooperation at a smaller scale. So we are thinking about bilateral interregional projects in S3 thematic areas. Strengthening the access to for less developed regions to innovation leaders, and creating collaborative research and innovation projects. Here you can see a little bit more in details what we mean, what we want to have here. It's very similar to this Strand 2A is very similar to the Strand 1, with the exception that we will have one-stage selection process. We will have 2 or 3 regional national innovation ecosystem. The grants will be smaller. The average size of the grant will be 4.5 million euros. And for the rest, it will more or less be the same. The Strand 2B will be more similar to what in Horizon is called coordination and support action, where it's a capacity building project to increase the capacities of less developed regions to engage in international activities. And here you can see the activities which I have mentioned before. More or less 7 million euros per year per call, if the budget is confirmed. Finally, the last trend will be dedicated to technical assistance, capitalization, and experimentation, and is very much related to the animation and management of a thematic smart specialization platform. As you probably know, we have developed in the framework of the smart specialization platform 3 thematic platforms, one dedicated to industrial modernization, one to energy, and the other one to agro-food. So this role of animating the platform has been played so far by the JRC, and this will be part also of the new instrument, the support schemes. This technical assistant will serve the Commission also to assess the new interregional partnership that should emerge in the future, and also to support evaluation activities for capitalization and experimentation. It is important for policy making and for the future development of cohesion policy. Those are the 3, this is the S3 platform that I was mentioning, and all the regions involved. The partnerships which are present in the platforms are bottom-up. More or less 100 regions are involved so far, and in more than 30 partnerships. The smart specialization is considered as the coordination principle for interregional cooperation, and the final goal is the alignment of regional S3 for the creation of interregional value chains. Which is the final goals, basically, is to align strategic investment in public and private sector. Just to mention, to summarize the platforms which are registered, you can see if you can find your sector, and what we really want is also to have to reinforce the collaboration between the European cluster collaboration platform and the partnership which are present in our platforms. In some cases, it is already happening, and we are very satisfied of the quality of what the partnerships are delivering. In other cases, this link is not yet very well developed. So I encourage you to have a look to what is going on the S3 platforms and try to establish connections. It is for agro-food and is for energy, just to have a summary of the sectors where the partnerships are active. To summarize what I have said so far, 3 slides. What we mean for innovation, in innovative investment, we mean that the project has to deliver interregional business and investment plans. This is what we want the projects to deliver for Strand 1, but also for Strand 2A. So it means that you will have to identify the key partners, the companies involved, the innovation activities you want to implement, the resources that you are putting on the table, the value proposition, distribution channels, market analysis, the relation with clients, cost structure, revenues, etc. And at the end of the project, you will have to clearly identify a pipeline of private investment in specific value chains. When we talk about investment in value chains, we take the definition of DG Grow. So the value chain is a combination of activities, actors, strategic networking, interconnected through companies, sectors, and borders. And here I put you an example. So it's important for your cluster to have clear in mind which are the different segments of the value chain where you want to operate in order to propose credible value chain investments. And do not forget to involve end consumers and users, because this is also very relevant in demonstration projects. When we talk about interregional, we talk about cooperation between innovative ecosystems, quadruple helix innovative ecosystems, cooperation between several regions beyond cross-border. It means that, and I refer to what also the colleague from CBR was saying, interregional cooperation, it must be linked to the logic of the value chain, not to the logic of the proximity, the geographic proximity. Even if the cooperation between border regions is not excluded, but it has to be justified by the value chain. When we talk about innovation, we talk about, we take the OECD definition. So, and we are focusing on TRL 6 to 8 for the uptake of new technologies. We have now opened a stakeholder consultation for better defining the new instrument. There are 6 questions, and you are invited to answer the questions and to participate in our consultation to provide your contribution. You will be consulted on the priority areas for investment, and this will be taken into consideration for the definition of the work programs, for the definition of the topics that will be put in the biannual work program. The second area is the link to European priorities. Basically, we want to see in terms of synergies how we can align with other policies and which would be your preferences. The basic modalities for cooperation, how complementarities with other EU instruments can be encouraged. The type of support here is very much linked to we want to see if only grants can be used, or also if there is a role for financial instruments. In your opinion, the level of resources, meaning the size of the grant, how you see the ideas that we have in terms of size of the project. And the investment need means is more focusing on the market failure. Which market failure those projects should should focus more. And that's all from my side. So I look forward for your participation in the consultation. What next? After the consultation, we will organize an expert group, which will have the commission for the definition of the work program. In the meantime, we are setting up the implementation modalities for the program. It is very likely that the program will be managed by an executive agency, probably the EIC, Innovation Executive Agency. And that the first call are expected to be launched by next summer. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm available for replying to your questions.
Grazie mille, Valentina, for your explanations. They have been very clear, and for sure you can count with our participation in that consultation. So we will be glad to give you our point of view, and please don't hesitate to contact us for any other link or collaboration that you think that we could help you with. So thank you, and now it's time to welcome Ilari Haukainen from the Regional Council of Lapland. Ilari, should I?
Good morning. I can, if you give me the presentation rights, I'm very happy to share it. It's ready here.
Thank you. You should have now the presentation rights.
That's right. I hope you see it now. I'll just test that we can change the slides as well.
Nice, perfect. Thank you, Ilari.
Yes, excellent. Okay, good. So thanks a lot for the invitation. Today I'm going to tell a bit about the process and cooperation of industrial transition in East and North Finland, and just to remind where we are and who these East and North Finland regions are. And I've been working for Lapland, which is leading the cooperation now, and this is a story about our smart specialization, including some themes and thematics for the interregional cooperation and cluster development, which is one of the key tools we tackle this regional internal cooperation, but also going outside from our region. And to set the background, here you see what's the business life like and how big the role the industry plays. We are a sparsely populated region, but we have very strong industry on forestry and mining and metallurgy side and pulp and paper including and this is also the basic structure of our support services for business. So the RD&I infrastructure is supporting this kind of business in East and North Finland. We are part of this innovation pilot and for industrial transition by DG Regio. We are one of the 12 regions and countries, and this work started in 2018, which led even more tighter cooperation in East and North Finland, and that's why we created also a high impact action, which was directly meant for SMEs in the wood timber and wood related value chain, and this was funded by Commission. We gave 300,000 euros for SMEs and consortiums with SMEs, and the target was exactly to boost these regional investments for innovation, and we wanted to have projects beyond TRL 6, just like in the current coming interregional investment plan for the whole Europe. And this was quite successful. We were one of the few first ones who made it successful, and we just finished it by summer. And despite Corona, we were able to pull the projects through, and all the 7 projects were successful. And I will add some links to the presentation so you can take a look afterwards. Then going to the strategy side, this is the overview of our smart specialization strategy at the moment. It includes the innovation services there on the foundation. Then we don't forget the academia and education services we have. And then we always want to involve the financing side on the regional perspective and the EU side from the beginning when we start to look for new opportunities. And then breaking down the strategy a bit, we have chosen a few cross-cutting competencies, which also serving us as a spearheads for the interregional cooperation. And clean technologies, low carbon solutions, very big thing in East and North Finland, and also the industrial circular economy is now one of the key topics we work on many multiple aspects, including water treatment, water management, not just forestry and mining and metallurgy. Then ICT is strong. We have all the region part of East and North Finland. They're a very strong player, even on national and international scale on that business. The post-Nokia era has really built up a new growth opportunities and lots of strong SMEs and even bigger companies in the region who operate on the digital business and really in the front runner in the field. Then we have heard a bit, Kevin mentioned Vanguard already, and that's what we would like to be involved more and more. We've been an observer region in East and North Finland, and now we're becoming a full member. And these growth sectors in our strategy are supporting that approach strongly. We have a manufacturing industry, bioeconomy, and new emerging industries, and we're going to link these with the Vanguard pilots like bioeconomy, efficient, and sustainable manufacturing, and third one will be the 3D printing pilot, where we have interested stakeholders and technical experts joining from the region during the next couple of months. And then a little about the clusters. We see clusters as a fourth priority and a key element in our strategy implementation. We would like to work on clusters and networks all around the EU in those categories and thematics I mentioned in past two slides. And we see that also the internal and cross-regional cooperation in the region should be built on cluster development and looking for new opportunities internally in the region. And just to pick up two most important things, what I see from the interregional cooperation is that we look for EU funding for the clusters. This is our job at the moment. We involve all the players you can see around the companies who are the part and core players in the clusters. And then another approach is that we directly look for new business. And this can be also seen as a cross-border cooperation to the Swedish side, to the Norwegian side, and also in the Baltic territorial cooperation, we look for new business opportunities for our SMEs and clusters. That's about it. Here you have my contact, my colleague's contact. She works as an expert for communication. Some of us are on the line. We have a big team in East and North Finland. This is not just me and Paula doing the work. We have several projects in all the regions, and this is the multi-layered way to build and lead the cooperation. Please visit our website and follow us on Twitter. We have lots of things going on despite the current situation. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome, Hilary, as always, because you are a constant source of inspiration. And I need to say that your presentations are beautiful. The designer is...
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to work with the proper graphic designer. We have found a person who's been very much interested and understanding what we meant, and also my colleague Christina was a big part of these things when we created the strategy together 2 years ago. So
that's very important, and we need to speak about that, because we need to take advantage of those capacities to express and to show so beautifully what you are.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you to you. We are on time. We had another speaker in the list, but at the end she is not available. It's Magda de Carli. So now we are approaching the last speech, and it will be from Sławomir Tokarski, Director in DG Grow. Sławomir, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much for joining us. We remember very well your participation on April, I think, 21. And so we are honored to have you here again after some months. Yours will be the closing speech for this week, this S3 or S4, as we have learned, we should call it week. So welcome. I will share my screen with your presentation. And now the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Thank you for kind words. Not for those who don't know maybe exactly what my directorate is doing, I have to say that the most important thing that matters for this session is that we are cluster boys and girls in the European Commission. So we are the ones who are making the case for clusters for the European Commission. And there are good reasons for that, and I will try to cover this in my short presentation. So let me start by thanking the European Cluster Alliance. Thank you, Antonio, all speakers and participants for organizing these webinar sessions and the whole month dedicated to the role of clusters in recovery and smart specialization. And I think you are really doing a great job. We started with the week dedicated to smart specialization, as we find it very important. The clusters are aware of the opportunities that this strategy gives. And we believe that the sessions have also inspired cluster organization and their members to undertake actions that will be relevant for the economic development of the local communities. But not only, they should also fit as well within the interregional collaboration with other actors across the EU. At the same time, the sessions gave the opportunity for public authorities to understand the role which clusters can play in designing and implementing smart specialization. So if there are entities which are at the same time agile, flexible, effective, and close to citizen, then these are definitely clusters. So it is common sense for national and regional authorities to engage with clusters for economic development and for recovery. And we have a clear evidence of regions where clusters play a crucial role in regional economic development. Just to name a few: Basque Country, Catalonia, Rhône-Alpes, Lower and Upper Austria, Baden-Württemberg, Berlin, Brandenburg, Pomorskie, Northwest Romania, and many others, which launched policies and SME measures that enable co-creation process and thus align public and private investment. So if you now move to slide 2, I would just like to shortly point out where the clusters can contribute in all these pillars of smart specialization in 21-27. So first, this is about enhancing research and innovation capacities and uptake of advanced technologies through networking and further cluster development. And here I mean in particular liaising closely with entrepreneurial universities, which by the way should be a part of clusters. Then business investment in research and innovation, accelerating technology transfer and innovation diffusion, building advanced manufacturing capabilities. And this in particular regards developing and absorbing artificial intelligence, high performance computing, and cybersecurity. And finally, helping to or establishing living labs and test beds to bring together the demand and supply side, for example, in healthcare. Now, second, reaping benefits of digitalization for citizens, companies and governments through ICT uptake with B2B, B2C, and C2C solutions, creation and development of ICT solutions. And we have a large number of ICT clusters which create products, services, technologies that enable digitalization of companies, public sector, and the society. Third, enhancing growth and competitiveness of SMEs through fostering the creation of new firms, growth of startups, scale-up, and business accelerators and incubators. Developing and implementing new business models, advanced business services including reskilling, upskilling, and financial literacy, and investing in intangibles and its uptake across cluster members. And I think the last point is quite relevant, because what we see in the EU is that small and medium companies in particular make very limited use of different titles of intellectual property rights. I think it's around 9% only, in comparison with 36% of large companies. And as we know, the economy of today is to a large extent based on intangibles. So there is a need to do better here. And just let me use this occasion for telling you that in 2 months' time, the Commission will adopt new IPR strategy, which will also dedicate a lot of attention to this issue of small and medium enterprises. And fourth, developing skills for smart specialization, industrial transition, and entrepreneurship. And here I mean innovation management in SMEs, training for skilling for smart specialization areas. And I mean, this is the big issue. And very often the cluster are in much better position to know what type of skills are needed in the small and medium enterprises that form cluster than the small and medium enterprises themselves. We've seen the whole skills agenda for the years to come. There is a big task of upskilling. We are talking about 100 million people in the next 5 years. So this is the area where clusters can act as a sort of policy accelerators and be much more efficient in delivering this upskilling or reskilling program. And finally, of course, there is the issue of international and interregional collaboration we heard about today. So just to sum up and make one point which to me seems crucial also in the context of recovery. If we move to the next slide, this is a sort of vision of industrial recovery in Europe in the next 2-3 years using recovery plans in the member states. And we see those different ecosystems which cover most of the EU economy, and which of course leave a lot of space also for clusters to act, both in a sense of linking different ecosystems and also acting across the borders in the logic of EU development rather than development limited to on the national or regional perspective. And now when we are talking with the member states, with the idea of investing this almost 700 billion euro over the next 2-3 years, there is of course the issue how this investment should be done in order to bring the best benefits to the economy, to the people, but also to keep in a certain sense a coordination among the member states. I mean, if we think, for example, about tourism, it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest in COVID-19 resilient travel infrastructure in one country, but not in the other. And I think that clusters could play here a very important role precisely by the fact that they run across borders and across ecosystems. And they can really cause a sort of chain reaction in the whole system that would lead to this critical mass of investment we are looking for, that would change the way the economy operates and move it one gear upwards, closer towards green energy. So there is a good case for using actually clusters in the whole recovery process, and we are making this case in our discussions with the member states. So let me thank you again. Thank you, Antonio, for the organization and for participation. I would like to encourage you to engage in these morning sessions, and in particular in the next 2 weeks that will be dedicated to industrial ecosystems and the role of clusters in the recovery. Thank you very much for your attention.
You are very welcome, Director Sławomir Tokarski, and I need to say that I congratulate you and your team for the work that you are doing. I need to say that for us, you are really an example of how to make reality the collaboration between public and private sector. And so I need to say that, okay? Thank you to you and your team. There has been a lot of very interesting information shared today. There are also opportunities to engage, to help in the designing and implementation of the new instruments for the next period in Europe, and this is for everyone that is here, okay? So I need to say to Valentina, you mentioned expert group. We will be glad to participate if you want, okay? As the European Cluster Alliance.
Okay. we will take into consideration your expression of interest. Our intention is to have in this group representatives of a mix of representatives of member states, regions, and representatives of the quadruple helix ecosystem. So clusters for sure can be considered a part of the quadruple helix innovation ecosystems of the regions. So I will mention that when we will have to define the group. We will start in the coming months to work on with the group. So it's the right moment to start thinking who should be the member of the expert group. So thank you for your expression of interest.
Thank you to you, and I am sure that we can facilitate the representation of the clusters and the communication with all the network of clusters across Europe of any initiative, any idea, or any search for ideas in between us. So thank you. And I don't want to monopolize the conversation, so it's time for the open dialogue. I have seen in the chat some very interesting contribution. Who is the first to comment or question or ask?
Antonio, if I may, I would like to make a question.
Oh, sure. Welcome, Esteban.
Yes, I am worried about how to bring the benefits of territorial cooperation to companies. My impression is that in many cases we discuss about that, and we are working a lot in policy learning, or like we had in some project with Eranet or things like that. Is more connected with technology center, universities, and now as Valentina Pina presented and Kevin Morgan said the opportunity, we have the possibility, and we should bring this benefit and make effective collaboration, not only for intermediaries, organizations, or public organizations, or regional authorities, but as well for the companies where the impact on innovation has. And I have this question for myself: how we define the instruments that will be easier to be applied to the companies? And this is a question for Valentina or Kevin, because Kevin says that in order to have impact, we should arrive to the last beneficiaries. So how you figure out what should be the effective instruments to bring the benefit of territorial cooperation to companies? Thank you very much.
The effective instrument, we hope that our interregional innovation investment will be an effective instrument. So, because this is the first time where we'll try to combine innovation with the place-based approach based on smart specialization. So you know that the companies are based locally in a specific territory, and they are acting in a framework of an ecosystem. This ecosystem is fundamental for the prosperity of the company. So effective instrument is something that an effective instrument is an instrument that try to valorize the potential which is present on the territories, and try to connect with the excellencies which are present in other parts of the EU. This is our concept of effectiveness. Effectiveness must bring an impact on the territory, not only a project in itself can be successful, but maybe the impact is not equally distributed in all the participating regions and countries. And with the idea of interregional value chains, we really would like to see this value equally distributed, not equally, but in any case distributed between all the participating regions and countries. So this is why we are trying to valorize the potential of S3, the potential of value chains, and the potential of ecosystems. Those are the three main aspects we are focusing. I hope it was it helped to answer your question.
Antonio, can I add?
Of course, Kevin. Go on, please.
I respect and understand what has been said by Valentina, and I largely agree with it. But I would just add one note of caution to Esteban's excellent question, and it would be this: there is no single instrument that can help us to promote successful interregional innovation collaboration. There's no silver bullet to help us to do this. As I tried to emphasize in my short presentation, the new instrument will need to work in a context where other policies are also complementary and simplified. And if you remember, I think we should learn from the problems with Article 70, where the main barriers to interregional collaboration were knowledge, politics, and complexity. And unless the new instrument can help us to overcome those barriers, then I will be worried about its success. But at the moment, I'm optimistic as long as we learn the lessons from the past. Thank you, Antonio.
Hi, Antonio. It's Anais. I don't know if I can add on that. Just on a very, so on a very concrete answer, what Kevin has just said, I fully agree. And I was gonna say to Esteban, I think from the experience at least that we've had and that I'm seeing with the clusters, simplicity is actually one of the key aspects. And in the project, different instruments that exist, and this is also for the Commission, I guess, but the fact that sometimes for a small company to participate in an interregional or European project, even though through clusters, the burden, for example, of all the administration or all what they're asked to actually fill in, a lot of time they prefer not to just not participate, although they are fully aware that it can give them connection, it can give them a lot of things. But this is why I think simplicity is a key, and I think a lot of the cluster managers are actually taking a lot of the burden away from the companies, so they deal with all this actions, and I think that's fine for that. But I think to keep it simple and as Kevin also said, aligned in terms of policy making, and not having so many different kind of policy, but that they're more aligned in terms of growth and so on, that would help a lot.
Thank you, Anais. Any other?
Maybe I can add something. Thank you, Kevin, for the comment you made. Of course, I was talking from a DG Regio perspective, and because we are developing this instrument, but a successful instrument is, of course, the instrument which will be able to interact with all other instruments. So from a interregional innovation investment point of view, it will be fundamental if regions can also align operational programs from structural funds with the new instruments, and if we are able to effectively combine what we are doing with our new instrument with the Horizon Europe. This will be the challenge: alignment of programs and in order to maximize the potential impact.
Thank you, Valentina. I need to emphasize the role of cluster as links, linking the public authorities' priorities and programs to the companies, to the real interest of the company, not only facilitating, that is a very important role, okay, but also aligning and promoting real activity. And I need to say that we have seen a lot of involvement of clusters in different strategies on paper, but not so much on realization on the past year. So I really want to offer a real implementation of programs through the participation of clusters as a link with the SMEs and the big companies, not only SMEs. And so those new instruments, for example, we could emphasize the role of the cascade funding that I think is a excellent scheme and is demonstrating very good, creating very good opportunities for SMEs through calls as in NOSUP, okay? But there are need for other kind of investment and other kind of more ambitious funding schemes, and I think that we are there to help you, and that's our proposal. Okay, so more questions, comments from the attendants? Adrian, sorry.
No, nothing. I was just saying, if you were closing, that I added in my presentation the link to the public consultation on interregional innovation, because I saw on the chat that somebody asked for the link.
Is in the chat or in the presentation? We will share the presentation in the European Cluster Innovation platform.
Yeah, exactly. I added into my presentation that I sent to Nina the link to the public consultation.
Yeah, I can show it just now, okay? But anyway, we will add it to the.
It's at the end. Yeah.
Here, no? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I will share it now in the chat also for anyone that wants to participate. It's right or not? Yes. Okay, thank you, Esteban. I see that you have made the same. No, this session is special, so it's 90 minutes long. We have 50 minutes still for the open dialogue. So I would like to hear more ideas, more questions, challenge what has been said, if you want. And yes. I was.
Antonio, can I make a brief question to Kevin, if it's possible?
Oh, please.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Kevin, I enjoyed very much your remarks and your ideas. One of the problems that we have is the lack of collective intelligence in all these kind of projects and even in smart specialization. How do you think it would be possible to reinforce the collective intelligence in Europe and especially in regions so that the impacts and the results of these projects can be more concrete and more successful?
What a great question. I wish I had a good answer for it, but all I could say really is that what really worries me at the moment is that there is a new political mentality in the European Union where member states and national capitals feel very dominant because of the response to COVID, for example, and they are forgetting that policy gets implemented at the subnational level in our regions, in our cities, in our municipalities. And for me, innovation is a collective social endeavor in which different levels of our policy making process, Brussels, member states, and regional government and so on, have to work together to deliver and implement these grand policies of European Green Deal and so forth. And as I try to emphasize, the infrastructure for our innovation post-COVID is already taking shape in the form of smart specialization. And as Mikel Andebasso said earlier this week, RIS4, as we should call it now, as a sustainable smart specialization strategy, could help us to deliver these big goals of our policy for digitalization, for green transition, and for democratization. And therefore, I would like to see a stronger voice for the subnational level along the lines of our principle of subsidiarity. And I hope the leaders in the European Union don't forget that point, that their policies, however good they are on paper, they have to be delivered on the ground.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Sławomir Tokarski. Okay, as on how to relate clusters with the industrial ecosystems. I know that we are working all this month on that specific topic. Okay, but I would like to hear your ideas about what are the main opportunities and challenges for us. What should we improve or express better or work on just to really make that work?
Well, I guess you know better than me, but I mean, we see, if you're talking about recovery plans, we see that member states will have a certain difficulty to come up quickly with valid ideas how all this money should be spent so quickly and to the best result for the economy. And there is a lot of talking about what they say fluidification of investment, how it can be on one hand relatively simple and easy to absorb, on the other hand really changing the way that we produce, we deliver services, and really moving us upward in a sense of going towards using this occasion to go towards green and digital transition. And this is also very, very human in a sense that I talk to colleagues from national administrations, and they want to make case for different types of ecosystem, but they don't know, or often don't know, how to do it. And I think if I confront this administrative reality, also with the discussions that we had with you, with clusters, so there is this richness of ideas, which come as a sort of mobilization of collective intelligence, which run across, as I mentioned, borders and across ecosystems, and which provide a lot of answers to these questions, where this money shall go. So I think, as we are doing here in the Commission, because we are also working right now on ideas for investment, and we see that member states are reaching towards us to ask how this investment could be best done in areas like tourism, but also in new ecosystems such as hydrogen. And I think you should do the same in vis-a-vis your regional and national governments, really to make a case for clusters as those policy accelerators, as those that can really trigger this value chain reaction, that can really send ripples throughout the whole of the economy, and that have ideas and that they know how to do that. Again, if I come back to this idea of policy accelerator, if I think about skills, and you can do it differently. Maybe you can talk to small and medium enterprises as a sort of conjunction of companies, but it's very different when you do it via cluster, because cluster and cluster organization, they have the strategy. They know in which direction the cluster will go. So they are in a much better position to advise small and medium enterprises where to go. And on the contrary, small and medium enterprises, they have limited time, limited resources, and they really don't know how and where to engage in order to do this upskilling. So I think we shall make those cases and show the potential of clusters for the delivery, because really many administrations both regional and national, will have a major difficulty to come up with quality recovery plans. Thank you.
You're welcome. You are totally right. We are continually discussing, speaking with our companies, specifically on skills. For example, my cluster, we have had weekly meeting with the companies, hearing what are their real needs, their real priorities week by week, and what kind of hiring, not only skilling, they are thinking about what and how can we solve it. So I see that Celine has a question. Celine, welcome. Celine Rosenberg from the University of Lausanne.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, Celine, welcome.
Hello, Antonio. Thank you for all these very interesting presentations. I have a question, but we already saw this several times, but just to know what the people here think about the role of digitalization in the regional ecosystem and inter-regional strategies. So the how the digital information, that is one of the main actual action to make a digitalization, how so at which level do you mean digitalization? How does it serve? Where? How is the information organized? Who manage it? Who store it? You know, I am wondering finally what is behind all this language of digitalization concretely.
Okay, who wants to go to answer?
Yeah, Antonio, if you allow me to enter. Celine, it's a fantastic question, particularly to develop in our session next week when we will have digital ecosystem discussion. But just for these reasons of smart specialization, if you go for this block of smart specialization in digitization, we have very clearly three main objectives there. Digitalization for citizens, digitalization for businesses, and digitalization for government. So investments of digitalizations in business to business, customer to customer, business to customer, and in having industry 4.0. Very simple, not complicated. I mean, it's very complicated, but the objectives are we want to have digitalization embedded in the production processes. The second one for citizens, all elements regarding to e-inclusion, e-health, e-learning, e-skilling, and for government, e-government, which is still lagging in many areas. So very concrete in smart specialization investments in these areas, but of course then depends on different emphasis of different territories. For the broader discussion on your questions, I would leave it for as a teaser for the ecosystem on digitalization. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, last question for today. Who wants to be the last participant speaking, commenting? Adrienne Brown from Arctic Values. Would you share with us?
Well, yeah. Hello everybody. Yeah, I'm Adrian. Hello from Finland. Yeah, I was just referring also, in the beginning to Kevin's presentation and the very important aspect to link this to financial instruments, to investments. And I think, I just want to outline once more, like, I think it cannot be done often enough, so that there should be the balance between getting investments, getting financing from public sector as well as also from the private sector. So and I think that is what is an awareness needs to be risen inside the clusters, so that there is a lot of private capital available when it comes to sustainable investments, and it's rising all the time, just because the investors, particularly institutional investors, they face themselves a lot of pressure to invest more into sustainability solutions. And I would just, with this comment, I also would like to outline, because we were talking about instruments, and all the time more and more financial instruments appear. So what can be done also by thinking about social bonds, for example? So instruments that are addressing not only the environmental aspects, even though they're of course very important inside clusters when it comes to circular economy, partly bioeconomy, but clusters also contribute very well to societal well-being and to societal welfare inside the regions where they operate, the cities, or across Europe when it comes to the large corporations like this one here, for example. So, and and social bonds, they are quite modern, and they are also coming up. And just by thinking how this recovery can work from this, from the COVID crisis, from this immense crisis right now, and social aspects play a crucial role. So I just made the comment, inspired by Kevin's presentation too. So, what will social bonds be? What kind of factor? How much capital from private capital will be allocated, and how then in the end the cluster members, also SMEs, can utilize it to come up with solutions, and in the end also implement their projects. That was just rather a comment. If one of the presenters or Kevin would like to respond to that, I'm happy. But this is it. Yeah, thank you.
You are very welcome, Adrian. Any comment?
Yeah, Antonio, if I could quickly come in on this point. Yeah, sure. Because thanks, Adrian, and for the mentioning of social bonds. And I think Slavek has pointed out in his presentation several times the importance of skills. And particularly in this area, also the social bonds can be a very important financial tool to be used. And I think this is also something we have to look more in detail. And creating the social dimension when talking to clusters is also, we are looking forward to have the discussion next week, I think, with the social economy ecosystem, because there we have also, before summer, had a lot of very interesting presentations. And I think I would also want to use the occasion to point out that linking with social economy in our digital road to Mannheim for our European Social Economy Summit on the 24th of September, we have a session with Antonio and some of you in the social economy digital event. And I think this is another part where we can discuss further, and social bonds play an important role there. Thank you.
Yeah, I am really glad for the references. As you say, Dula, we are working on improving those relationships between industrial cluster, social cluster, and increasing the opportunities and the instruments to work on it. And one example of that is that next Monday we will have the Turin's ecosystem session, and we will receive from the European Commission one of the responsible of that area. Also, we will have two clusters, tourist cluster, but also we will have one representative from the European Economic and Social Committee, Mr. Panagiotis Kofas, that will present the perspective of that institution. He is the rapporteur for the tourism, and I think it's a very good example of what we are doing, learning a lot from different perspectives, from different realities, interests, and integrating everything in this session. Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow at 9, those that wants to think about what we are doing are invited to join. It's a meta session about how to improve everything, the ideas that we are sharing here. But anyway, on next Monday, we will restart with the industrial ecosystem Turins. If not, have a very good weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Antonio. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.